Good afternoon. My name is Rebecca Thompson-Hitt. I'm the founder and executive director of the Consciously Parenting Project, and this is our 27-day project. We have been working on this. I was thinking I needed to count up days again, but we're like 15, 16 days, I think, away from being completely out of our house. And so I have been sharing this journey because I think it's important, because it's not just about, all right, everybody needs to just get rid of their things and, go on the road. Because as we were talking about earlier this week, Christy and I, it's about finding your own path. Like, what does it mean to you? What do you need in your life? So today we're going to talk more about that. And we're going to share a little bit about what's going on. And so I am here with Christy Farr. And Christy is the author of the book, Is Home Your Happy Place? And she was my radio show co-host for a whole year, several years back. And we have one of our 10 biggest fans from that radio show with us today. This is Meredith. And Meredith has also gone on this journey. She came to join the call, and I roped her into coming on video with us and sharing a little bit about her experiences as well, because she's done this a lot of, really revisiting. And today she's in a happy place. And we were just saying, it doesn't mean that, we're all done, we're set. But because it is something that we need to revisit. It isn't static, it's dynamic, and it changes as our families grow and change, and as our seasons change, and as our needs change. And so it's a great, great reminder that, here we are, and we're trying to move into that place that feels good now. And sometimes it means releasing things. Many times it means releasing things. Yeah, I remember one of the guiding ideas that I had for a very long time was, what do you want and what are you willing to give up to get it? And I thought about that so much because, you know what? Right now, if I think about that question, I want more freedom, more flexibility. I want to be able to travel. And that means I need to give up this house that has so many needs and is so big and isn't meeting our needs as a family right now. And so it's a journey. And, what we needed last year and the year before was this house. We needed this space for all of the people who live here. We needed that, but we needed to find ways to shift it. And now we've outgrown it and we need something else. So it's that question. And I want you just to start with that question for you. What is it that you're needing more of? What do you want? What are you willing to give up to get it? What will serve you? And that can be time-wise, how you're spending your time. It can be, what is in your way, making it difficult for you to have the emotional time and space that you need for yourself. What is it that is no longer serving you, to use Christy's words? So, Christy.
Yes.
Thank you for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm so glad to do this. I love this. This is like play for me.
This is awesome. And I appreciate it, to see what a lot of you don't see are all of the emails and messages that I'm sending Christy. Oh my God, this is what happened. What do I do with this? And
I brought one today to read to them.
Oh, good.
Because I'm so fun that way.
You are fun. We never know what's going to happen.
We should always use emails you send after midnight.
Oh.
Those are the best. They don't have any paragraphs.
Right.
Like, it's just
this giant thing.
Perfect.
And yes. I also should not send out emails after midnight, because that really doesn't work either. Yeah.
We win some, we lose some. It's okay.
That's right. And Meredith is here, so it worked out.
Exactly.
Yeah. So where should we start today? I have one question that someone sent in from someone who's not here, and then we can, whatever feels good. What do you think?
I think start with the question that you have, and then I want to go back to what you did in the intro, and then we'll see when we get to talk about what you sent me after midnight.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Okay, so this is from Mary, and Mary says the biggest thing for her with all of this process is finding the energy to begin to tackle the clutter. So many other things always seem to come above it. I just need a hurricane to sweep through my house or a holiday. She's from UK. She needs a holiday.
Yes. Well, she's more likely to get one in the UK than she is here. So
Yes.
she's at least well positioned for that. I think, well, if you go back to this idea that our external space is a mirror of what's going on inside of us, then there's no surprises when you look at someone having chaos in their external space and then they're having trouble changing it because there's also chaos internally. If there's overwhelm outside, there's overwhelm inside. So it doesn't surprise me ever when someone's struggling to make it different because it's the way it is because of what was going on inside. So we kind of have to find crafty ways to squeeze in the initiation of this journey. And when someone takes a workshop with me, we do daily challenges. They're in the book as well, a lot of them. And we just play, really. It's like, give me 27 things out of your bedroom closet. Give me 27 things from that cabinet under the sink. Not because everyone is going to change their entire lives because they took 27 things out of their closet, but because if I can get someone to say yes to that, then they might do it again, and they might do it again. And they'll do it as many times as it takes for that closet to be in what I call maintenance mode. And then they might go to the next space and do that again. And eventually we're talking about these storage spaces. We're talking about the kids' rooms. We're talking about the kitchen. So you want to just find like this tiny little piece of time. If you're in the kitchen and you're waiting for the 11 minutes for pasta to boil, like use that time to go through the mail on the counter. Use that time to, open that drawer and think, what is all of this stuff, and to pull over the trash can and just put stuff in there. So I really become something of a life hacker in the beginning of the process because it's like, how can I squeeze in 27 things today? And if you can squeeze that in twice or you can squeeze that in 3 times, you're talking about triple the effect. And in the beginning, that's enough. If someone's really stuck, then I'll ask them to go to the smallest, easiest to put into maintenance mode space. Because if I can get them to do, I have one client who started years before she was working with me with a half bath. Like the entire house was in chaos. And she's like, I'm going to scrub this half bath. And she cleaned it meticulously, including the baseboards, scrubbed, worked, got it in maintenance mode, and then never let it get out again. So she took that and just thought, well, all of this chaos in this house, and then I'm just going to sit right here in this happy place. And then it was the next space, and then it was the next space. And it was how she just started. So what I want people to be haunted by is that whatever it is that's going on, it doesn't have to be this way. And all you have to do is figure out a way to get started. If that's, just looking at things differently, get the book, let it rattle around in your brain, do some of these challenges. If you can't, call me. Like, I absolutely understand the paralysis, and we just have to find a way to start. Then you start clarifying the space and things start to feel easier. You have more energy because the space isn't draining you. And then maybe you're able to do more and make harder decisions. And over time, it goes from being impossible to like kind of dramatic things become possible just because you were willing to start small.
Yeah, I was thinking about when you were talking about the paralysis and the just being unable to get started. And I just wanted to share, I started working in my son's room yesterday with him because, something came up and he always had something else going on and he's been pushing it off and pushing it off and pushing it off. And when we actually sat down together on the floor last night, pulled out the first bin of whatever is in it. And he just said, I don't know. I don't know what I want to do with anything. I don't know. I don't know if I want to keep it. I don't know. And it was just this total, oh my gosh. And I think that all of us feel that way, at one point or another. It's like, well, how do we even begin here? Gosh, it just feels so big. And, Josh has just his one room and he has 4 bins. That's all we need to do. And it's just like, wow, so much. And I remember being in that space. So I was able to just sit with them and just say, yeah, I know it's hard to know, but let's look at this one thing.
Right.
What do you think about this? And so we had a big IKEA bag for things that are going in the yard sale. And then we had a bag for things that he wants to keep. And once we got started and started doing it together, then he was okay. There were a couple things he's like, I don't know. So we have a little I don't know pile right now. We'll come back to
Perfect.
today. But, we didn't let that stop us. And so it's like, I learned a lot from just being with him, in his process, and what does he need, so that he can go through and actually not be overwhelmed by his space and actually really enjoy his space, whatever that ends up looking like. So I just wanted to share that.
I'm glad that you did. And it's always about finding a way for it to feel possible. So I never send someone in and say, I want you to go in and do space healing on the kitchen, because who does that? Who walks in and does the whole kitchen? Later, when you're in maintenance mode, you can go through in a one sitting and like find things that have become not true for you anymore, because that's like a quick pass to see what's changed. But when you're starting, nobody goes in and does the kitchen. And so then it's like we go into the kitchen and nope, I want to leave. So I'm going to go back out and think, okay, I'm going to go in and look at what this kitchen is made of. So the kitchen is made of upper cabinets, lower cabinets, countertops, fridge, freezer, pantry, whatever else. And then if that breakdown isn't enough, so fine, pick the first cabinet and say, this cabinet today. If that feels too overwhelming, I have actually had clients number the shelves in the cabinets. This is cabinet 1, shelves 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to start on shelf 1. There's no reason that you can't, everyone can break this down as small as they need to break it down to make it work. So that's the big hacker key, is just keep making the space smaller. The laptop is sitting on an IKEA bookcase. It's on its end, so it's long. And if I couldn't do that whole bookcase, I look at this first square and say, what are these books? What is that stuff? And picking up things literally one at a time and looking at them and asking those questions. That's how we get started.
And I think that that's super, super important for parents, because, we have our time and our attention so divided. That's what, and I've got, not little kids anymore.
Right.
There's always that hope that, you're going to have so much more time or space or energy because kids are older. But I find that there are just times where everybody needs a whole lot. And there are times where it's quiet. It's not like the intensity of a toddler, but it, is the same kind of, okay, this needs attention right now for one reason or another. This is on fire. And so, I'm diverting my attention. And so it's easy to feel overwhelmed. All right, I'm I'm trying to go through this one little space and I've been interrupted 30 times, But I think that if you can really mother size it, I think that's really what you're saying is, all right, what can you do? What can you focus on? What can you, what is doable in your world, in your life right now? And not looking at like the whole kitchen, like you were saying, but really, what's the smallest unit of space that you can look at and not feel overwhelmed? And what can you do to start there?
Right. And some projects aren't going to feel accessible in the beginning, even if you can focus on them. There are people that there's a lot of energy and a lot of connections and a lot of stories and a lot of pain sometimes around stuff. Why start with the hardest thing? Like, there's no reason to do that. Do what you can. Do what you're open to doing. Walk around until you find something that you think, oh, all right, there's something I can face today.
Right. Like I was thinking about when you were just saying going around the kitchen, and there is one particular cabinet that has just been a thorn, like the entire time we've lived here. I don't know what's in there. I'm not sure what happened in there. And I wouldn't start there.
No.
But the space where we have our Tupperware was actually where I started, because I could sit down on the floor and I could say, yeah, we've never used this bowl in 2.5 years.
Right.
I can put it up on the counter. I can release this. Oh, I've never used these. They're beautiful, but I don't use them. And so it was it was accessible. So I think it's like that piece of what is accessible, what isn't, what doesn't send you wanting to scream running out of the house.
Absolutely. And I think too, when there's a lot of chaos, it's easy to feel like that wasn't enough. You know, I use weight as a reference, as a metaphor all the time. If I have 60 pounds to lose and I go for a bike ride for an hour, it's so tempting to think, well, that wasn't enough, you know, but nobody says I've got 60 pounds to lose and then gets on a treadmill and runs till it's gone. That's not how it works. So it's really important that we are loving with ourselves, and that we are kind to ourselves, and that we can take time to celebrate that 27 things, to take time to say, I did what I was supposed to do today around this healing. You know, I am moving forward on this path. I have taken that step for this day. Now I can focus on my family. I can focus on myself. I can do what I need to do. I can work. I can whatever. That we don't have to go full speed. It's not reasonable to go full speed. And in fact, when somebody starts with me and they're going really full speed, I just set my timer. I'm like, spontaneous combustion in 5, 4, because they always crash and burn. They stay up till 3 a.m. Then they have 4 hours of sleep. And then they're so spent the next night and frazzled, and everybody's upset because they're upset. And then they don't do the challenge for the second day. And I'm like, do as much as you want, but don't do so much that you're not going to be able to do the challenge the next day, because that challenge on a daily basis is what's actually going to cultivate sustainable change. Not you go until 3 a.m. the first night. That's not going to change anything.
Right. Just going to make you tired and cranky.
Right. Cranky. Yeah, nobody wants that.
No, we have enough ways of getting to that point. Yeah.
Yeah. So I am actually hearing to next go to the thing that you said in the beginning is haunting me about what is it that you want and what are you willing to give up to get it. And I think that I love that idea, but even the idea of having to give up to get it feels like it has a little extra emotion on it that we don't need to have. So instead I use the word release, because release doesn't have to be heavy, and give up just feels like a sacrifice. And I don't think we need to be sacrificing. I think that when I'm having this day, August 11th of 2016, there are things that are true for me that on December 6th, 10th or 11th of 2016, they're not going to be anymore. And I can look around and think, what's here that's no longer true for me that I can release? And it is making space for more of what is true for me. We do this in the garden with ease, right? Nobody stands in the garden in the winter screaming into the dark about how nothing is blooming. Like, that doesn't happen. Well, maybe it happens in Florida, but it doesn't happen anywhere that people and we don't, like, when was the last time you saw a pine tree weeping because it was losing its pine cones? Like, no, like, this is unnatural for us to be unwilling to release what was for yesterday. And when we can sort of do this work, I see people's relationships with letting go shift. And I would love to be able to just say some big, very powerful thing that lets people let go with ease. But actually doing this work is what makes it possible for people to begin to let go. And then I see them like, oh, these things in my Facebook feed are no longer true for me. I'm going to release them. And oh, these relationships in real life are no longer true for me. I'm going to release that. And all of a sudden, we're looking at all of these areas where we become able, through space healing, we become able to just release things that are no longer true, instead of this heavy resistance and this grieving. And even relationships can be released with love and grace and ease if we can accept that there are seasons to all of this. And it's really unnatural to resist it.
Yeah, and I think in my experience, I never saw things really being released when I was growing up.
Right.
Even when it comes to friendships or relationships, it just wasn't part of my experience.
Right.
How do you release them with love? How do you take this ball of yarn that doesn't work for me and has a big story to it, and let it go lovingly. It's the same kind of process of release and thank you, ball of yarn, for your gifts. And I'm sorry I never made anything with you. You know, but I think that's why it's so important to talk about all of this. And it's not modeled. How do we do this in a way that isn't painful?
Right. Well, I think it's not only is it not modeled how to do this in a way that's not painful, but the opposite is actually very strongly modeled, right? We choose do you remember the keychains and necklaces, best friends forever, and the heart was in two pieces on two different chains and it broke open?
Yes.
Yes, because of course when I'm 6 or 7 or 12 years old, I'm going to know myself well enough to know who my best friend is for the rest of my days. We're always going to live next door to each other, and we're never going to have any things that would keep us from being BFFs forever. It's such just a whole mythology around permanence that isn't real, because not only do people move to other states, and then how do you be best friends forever when you're 6 and your parents won't let you get on a plane and fly to be with your best friend? People move and times change and personalities develop, and we all deserve to have a best friend who's really a great match, not just some best friend who was a perfect match for me when I was 12. We have people dying and we have people's lives changing. How many people are friend communities where they had like this perfection of friendship, and then somebody has a baby and it's like, where did they go? Somebody else has a baby, and then there's like 2 of you left, like, we can stay together forever. And then she goes to get married and wanders off. Like, change is what's real. And I think that we, even in the idea of the fairy tale stories that we're told about long lost loves and relationships lasting forever, and I just don't think that we're really equipped until much later in our lives to say what's going to be true forever. And it's part of the American myth that we do. And I think a lot of healing is happening around that lie.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. We as a culture don't really do change well.
No. There's a lot of resistance. In fact, every July 4th, we recreate the bombs bursting in air and scare all of the children and all of the dogs and all of the cats with this sound that is reminiscent, the fireworks, of the origin of our country. It's been a few hundred years. We might want to celebrate something different now, but no, we still celebrate bombs, violence. Like, we're, even in our identity as a country, is rooted, yes, in its history, but in this really shadowy aspect of our history. We don't like change here. We cannot let go of our wounds in this country.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's so true.
It's so true.
I have nothing more to say.
We'll put this spot on Meredith. What do you think about all of this, Meredith?
Great. Thanks. I'll jump in right there. Actually, I'm so glad that you said that, though. I think that's so valuable. What you mentioned, just putting it in that larger context, that it's not really just about, this thing, item, or person. It is really just a cultural expectation that we've all absorbed. So I appreciate that you mentioned that. And it's taken us, so we are finally in a place that we really love. And it's taken us about 6 years from the day we decide, from like the moment I woke up and decided, right. And even before that took a long time for us to get to that point as a family, to decide that we wanted to make some changes and that we didn't want to just keep plodding on because that's what we were supposed to do. And right. So it is definitely a process. And I didn't have your book at the time, 6 years
Nobody
ago.
did.
So it's great that it's there now for people who are starting now to have some guidelines. And I think at the time there were some bloggers. It was just start of 6 years ago. People were just starting to talk about the possibility that there might be a different way. So it's nice to be able to have that support with taking the baby steps. And so, just some things that stand out for me in terms of that, I could really relate to what you were saying with the picking the shelf or just picking the area. Because at the time at which this all sort of came about, and we decided to really do something and not just think about it. We were living in a house that was, I think, just under 3,000 square feet. We had bought it not that because we wanted it, but because we thought we should, because it was cheap. Because when we bought it, it was, oh, the mortgage rates were going down and you should do this and that and the other. So it was far. It was like urban sprawl. So it had been a rural area. And something told me, like, I don't know if I want to be this far away from everything we do, but it's cheap. So we bought it and had this huge backyard and had an in-ground pool. And doesn't everyone always want an in-ground pool? So, it had this garage and a full finished basement with a music room, because we were going to make all this music, I guess, like it was insulated. So we had all these great things, and the length of time it took really to get it to a place where we felt comfortable was long. I mean, it took several years of, the big yellow bags. This was in the Midwest where we were at the time. The big yellow bags for I think it was the Vietnam veterans, or maybe it was the disabled veterans, that would, put it in your mailbox. And we had to use, extra bags because we had way more than one. And it took about 3 years of every other month filling our little sidewalk down into the driveway just to sort of make a dent in that. So, and then at some point we realized we didn't, okay, well, we can deal with the stuff in the house and we don't want this house anymore. And it was great at the time. And I say that to everybody because people who see the way we live often automatically think that I must think this is the way everyone should live just because I'm doing that. And I don't,
Right.
which I'm sure you see with your clients. There's obviously a wide range of what works for people. And it just didn't work for us anymore. The idea of the pool was great, and who was going to clean that and vacuum it and sweep the algae, and it was a lot. And the idea of the huge backyard was great, and we had a garden for a year because then we were working crazy hours and we had other things going on. So who was going to weed it? So all of that just became really heavy. And for other people who maybe had the time to do that, it could work. It just didn't work for us anymore. So yeah, we eventually, a couple years into that whole process, we sold the house and moved into a 950 square foot loft apartment downtown.
Perfect.
In a nearby area. And it was great. We probably got rid of about 85% of what we owned over the course of that time, and one car. We had 2 cars at the time. And then we lived downtown for about a year and then sold the other car. So we've been car free for over 3 years now.
Oh, wow.
And it just continued to spill into more parts of our lives, which is the part that, you all were mentioning about some people not being able to relate. But this is really just one aspect that if you look at, your place, where you spend your time, and look at making that be where you're happy, it can be surprising how you're then willing to go out into more, it can spill out into other areas of your life that then you find happiness in other areas. So I feel like, home is a great place to start. And you can find, first of all, more time. If you feel like you're in a happy place, it's amazing how much time is freed up because you're not stressing out about all these things. So then you think about things and you have time for more relationships and,
Yes.
it really can just spill out. And then you think about maybe spending time doing things that only make you happy. That's crazy.
Shocking. What a shocking revelation.
Right.
What is this? Tell me about this happiness. Yes.
I know. It's crazy. So
Yes.
find yourself moving across the country, following joy. It's just,
Right.
Yeah, a wild and crazy ride.
It is. Well, and I think that if you said to someone, where do you want to live? If you weren't living here, where would you want to live? Like, they'll answer you a lot of the times, but that feels impossible. It feels impossible. If I say, are you happy in this relationship? Do you know, I'd really like to leave this relationship. I can't tell you the number of people who leave relationships after this space healing process is completed, or at least started, because they're so overwhelmed by their physical space that they can't even conceive of really looking at the relationship. In fact, I wrote this book and then I was like, I don't know, you just know that your stuff needs to go in your book because you don't get to talk about everybody else's healing journey without your own. And I realized that there were these levels, it's like releasing stuff and then releasing codependency and releasing relationships with people. and releasing expectations and all of these shoulds and the things that I like, wait, that's not even my belief. Why did I think that I believed in that, you know? And that joy just spreads through all of the areas that you're willing to apply these ideas. And people will say to me, okay, so in the book, you only talk about physical space. What about virtual space? I'm like, substitute virtual space every time you read space. It's the same ideas. Well, what about relationships? Same. Well, what about the way I'm spending my money? Same. Like, it's these principles, not like a technique, right? But like these ideas of being willing to move forward and being willing to believe that I'm worth living what's in my heart. You know, it like takes over your life, and things become possible that feel literally impossible when it first comes up. I don't think I could have imagined most of what is my reality in the beginning, most of it. Having a business that's thriving like this, having a relationship with love like this, having kids that are amazing and thriving and growing into adulthood like they are, having a space, oh my gosh, that feels this inspiring, and that I walk in the door and think there's nowhere else in the world I'd rather be than in this house with these people. Like, that used to feel impossible. That felt out of reach for me. And now, you know, 127 things at a time. And my process in September, it'll be, I used to be a professional organizer, for the record. So this is not my first introduction into this idea. It was the first time it became about what it's really about instead of just organizing stuff. And this took me 5 years. I started teaching Sick of Being Stuck September. The first thing I ever did was 5 years ago next month.
Wow, that's been 5 years.
I know.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, 5 years next month. So, yeah.
Wow.
And everything is different now, even in my own life.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I remember 5 years ago. I remember where you were.
Yes.
Wow.
Everything is different now.
Everything is different. Your city.
Everything.
How you're spending your time. I mean,
Yes.
it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it
that's
evades all of the areas, but that's how we get joy in all of the areas.
Mm-hmm. But that's also one of the things that I really like about you, is that you're not just writing about it or talking about it, you're living it.
I don't know how anybody does it another way. I'm really grateful that I get to do it this way.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not sure what everyone else is doing if that's not what they're doing, but yeah. So does this mean we get to read Rebecca's?
Yeah, I don't even know
what
did I say?
I don't know. We're going to see. It's so great.
That'd be good.
I have to.
Yeah.
It's quite long.
Because I wrote a lot.
Yes. So it's little reports about amazing progress in the garage, and then Josh's room, about how amazingly prepared we're going to be for the call today. So she says, anyway, the biggest reason I wanted to reach out tonight is to talk about tomorrow's call. I haven't sent anything out yet. I'm pretty tired, but I'll get something out. Apparently it's going to have the wrong time on it, but she's going to get it out.
I did.
But she said, I was thinking that it would be nice to walk them through a process of their own, maybe even what they want and where they feel out of balance, and choosing one place they'd like to work on for the remainder of this month. If I weren't leaving this house, I'd spend the time in Josh's room, helping him go through his things. I really liked what you said about the people we are at this time. I want to be those people, one of those people who sit around and play board games, but we're not. I wanted to be someone who sits out in the patio with the friends and has a cookout, but we've been unable to be those people. So where are we now? And for us, we're going to reinvent ourselves, and that feels really good. We'll see who we are and what our new life requires as we need it. So anyway, ask your guides about what we need to talk about tomorrow, and we'll see what other people ask. So I think we accidentally did that. Already talking about that change is our true nature and that we've been taught differently. Do you think that there's any piece of that stands out for you that we didn't get to? Other than just challenging everyone to find something they want to change?
Yeah, I think that's really it. Really, and something that feels doable, kind of like, maybe there's a drawer or cabinet number one, A, that feels
Right.
doable. You know, what is it? If you could shift one thing, if you could change one thing, because it's all connected. So if you can find one thing that you can start to shift in any way, it shifts in other areas too. So like me, if I wasn't doing this process, I would go spend time in Josh's room and help him create a space that feels really good for him and help him with some processes, because I think that would alleviate a lot of stress for him and a lot of stress for me. And that would be ripples, then that would mean less stress for Trey, who's, stressed out by Josh's room, because it's messy and dirty and he keeps eating food in there even though we told him not to. So, like, but I think just really challenging everybody to find something that feels doable in your life, whatever is going on. Meredith, you're in your happy place right now. So, but still, even in your happy place, is there something for you?
Well, I was actually going to say, I think that the folks that have reached out that mentioned, well, we just, moved or got a house that we're happy with, I think this is still completely valid for them. And what I was thinking of was, they may just be moving into a new space. That's actually a great time, I think, to look around. It's not just when you're downsizing and you're getting a smaller. I think when you're starting out, that's actually a fantastic time, right? Because you're finding new spots. It's a change. So you're figuring out the lay of the land. You're trying to decide how things are going to be set up. And one example that I was thinking of is that even with the small amount of stuff we have now, and so now we're in a house for the first time in a year or so, as opposed to an apartment or something like that. Because we left the loft apartment and then we've moved around a bit. So we're in a house now, and we were so excited because we have some storage, which we haven't really had. We've just been having to use some closets while we were in the Bay Area because we had really small apartments. So we have, I don't know, 4 tubs of storage, which doesn't seem like a lot for people. And it's still, something we have to look through, right? So I couldn't remember where I'd put our new Oregon community bank folder because I had a couple different places I might have filed it. So I went out into the filing and I went, why do I still have some of these papers?
Right.
I mean, it's only 2 tubs of filing. It used to be filing cabinets. We got rid of the filing cabinets because we were tired of moving them around. Let's just put them in plastic bins. And we don't get into them often. There are some things with the whole 7-year financial pay stub, whatever, right? Some stuff we feel like we should keep, we just choose to because we think it might be better for record retention. So it's not a ton to look through. And there was still an opportunity for me to go through there and pull some things that, because we've been moving it and not really opening it for the past 3 years, we hadn't looked at it. So I actually found a $10 gift card that's like 10 years old, still works because I did the little, call it up and see, still $10 on. Hey, I just found $10. It was like stuck somewhere that, wouldn't have found if I hadn't gone through all that. So, especially when you're moving into a new spot, I feel like you get comfortable and then you do decide, okay, well, we're just taking this along. And so maybe we don't even look at it. And that's still a great opportunity to do that. You never know what you're going to find, and you never know how easier you'll make your life if you cull some stuff. So I feel like it's still very on target for folks who even might be thinking, oh, this is really the opposite of what I'm doing. It's really not. We're always right in our stuff. And so, yeah, I saw through that. There's another box that I didn't tackle because I found what I was looking for in the one, right? So there's always something,
Well, and I talk about when people get through space healing, it's like getting each space into maintenance mode. And maintenance mode has inherently maintenance built in, right? So maintenance mode doesn't mean done forever. It means that I'm going to check in, and checking in, you get to decide what that is. I've never bothered to tell anybody how often they should look in their filing cabinets, their clothes. I have people who every month on the first of the month, they check their closets and think, does anything no longer feel true? I have people who do that seasonally, and I have people who do that once a year. I don't care when you do it. like, that's just the truth, because it doesn't matter. It's zero effect on my life. But there should be some kind of check-in. And for me, that, like, we do kind of a food check-in, not every time we go to the grocery, but usually before we go big grocery shopping, we like open the fridge and think, what needs to go? You know, or if we go to put things in the fridge, it's like, why is there nowhere to set things in the fridge? Well, leftovers, you know, so we pull everything out and get it tidied up. And I think that when you simplify your life, then it just naturally lends itself to those kinds of check-ins. But there are spaces, storage things. We did our holiday stuff. It was the second time in 5 years when we, you know, pulled Christmas stuff out. I was like, wait, before any of this stuff goes back downstairs, we're going to go through it. We released one whole box of stuff that the kids were like, I don't really care about that I thought we were keeping because they cared. They thought we were keeping it because I cared. So every now and then you just check in, and the less stuff you have, the more painless those check-ins become. And the more we just, the last time we went through the filing cabinet, I said, when we move, we're not taking this with us. And so I'm down to paperwork in one drawer of a filing cabinet that I would, before we leave Minneapolis, or even this place, if we move within Minneapolis, that I know I'll be down to a little, you know, some sort of Rubbermaid thing to hold the files, the papers that we do find essential. And I have other people who are making everything virtual. Everything's electronic. They have no paper. And they have a file box somewhere with birth certificates in it. But like, people are going more hardcore than I probably will. But I keep almost no paper these days. And they still have to be checked in every now and then.
That's making me think about my file cabinet.
Oh yeah, don't even think about that yet. That's another day. I was thinking of a couple of ideas to give people, you know, just checking in if your space is in maintenance mode, like Meredith said. Also, it's back to school time. And a couple of years ago, I tried to do like a back to school reboot sort of thing to help people, and they're not really helpable. And so if you're going back to school and you're feeling frantic about that, that would be a really amazing use of this time. You have Rebecca as a resource. You have me as a resource. We've now roped Meredith in as a resource. So if you're still sitting with all of last year's school stuff, maybe this is your chance to say, okay, what are we archiving? What are we going to release? What, you know, do we need to do something with? And then looking at how you can set yourself up for success this year. Because if you don't change the system, you're going to end up in the same screwed place that you were last year when the school year ended. You know, it's going to perpetuate if we don't change it. Back to school reboot would be really cool. Also, we're at this kind of cool time where Christmas or the holidays are in sight, but they're not here. Like, it's still hot outside.
Oh yeah,
like,
thank you for not being here.
Yeah, I know. And I always think about, like, what could we be doing now to make that possible? For some people, this is like the moment where they go, oh, we should start thinking about that. And other people, like, where would you put gifts if your kids got them? Like, lots of people don't have space for that. So now and over the next month or two is the time to release, to donate. If you want to get old things into the hands of people for their holidays, now is when you can start thinking, you don't start taking action, but really just starting to look a little bit ahead, which is what space healing has allowed me to do. It's not just always be running around on fire. What's next? What's coming? You know, we're doing creativity is the intensive theme next month. And so I'm thinking about, what do I need to do to set myself up to be a successful leader in that intensive? You know, do I have a place where I can do the creating that I need to do? I do. Do I have do I have clarity around what I'm trying to create? And I don't actually. So if my studio was in a big wrecked state, you know, I might get out there to sort of just get myself ready for that intensive, so that when I'm leading other people through their creative process, I'm doing the same myself. I think the space allows us to kind of look forward, and that's a really refreshing thing. If there's not something that's on fire for you right now, think, what do I want to be more ready for than I would otherwise be?
I like this idea that you're talking about, this when things aren't on fire.
Yes. It's a beautiful thing, isn't it, Meredith?
Yes, it is.
It sounds really amazing and lovely, and I hope to come visit soon.
It's a nice place.
Yes.
We'll send you a postcard.
Please do.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It was a breakthrough. Even I do monthly workshops, and I used to always just be like, what's next, and then I had all of these ideas, and when I sat down and wrote out my ideas and monthly planned the the agenda for each month and planned to take December off for vacation, and I was like, oh, look at me, like this is a thing I couldn't do last year. I was not looking this far ahead. Even last year, even at the beginning of this year, I was really in more of a survival mode, and now I'm have my 2017 plan really in place, and I still leave a lot of space for spontaneity because, well, like sometimes Rebecca calls and says, so I have to be out of my house for 27 days. So I don't make really firm, like complete structured plans, because that's not my nature. Some people, that is their nature. I'm not. But I know what 2017 looks like already, just because I thought to think about it, and then boom, there was the idea. So
Because you had the space, because
right.
you're not in survival now.
Yes.
That's, I think, what so many families are, ultimately, when people say, like with Mary, I'm so overwhelmed. I don't even know where to start. I can't even begin. And I think it's that there's so many layers of survival, and we think many, many times we think, oh, I'm out of that now. I'm no longer in this big explosive crisis situation, but we're still going from one fire to the next fire to the next fire, and we don't recognize that that's still survival.
Absolutely. It's less survival-ish than it used to be.
Right.
Is actually being happy and enjoying your life.
Right. And it's not that you didn't make progress, kind of going back to that beginning, you're not going to run, 60 pounds off on the treadmill and one, until it's gone. You do a little bit at a time, and each little thing is going to help you move more and more out of survival. And then one day you'll recognize that you're not anymore, and you can start planning ahead. And maybe that's one of the hallmarks of, oh, here I am. I can actually think about some of these other things, and not just, oh, the bushes need cut and the pool's not quite green anymore because Trey dumped some stuff in it. But, it's all that other stuff that just takes energy and attention away from the other things that I want to be spending my time doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be this way.
Yay. Right. And it doesn't mean that you have to sell 95% of what you own either.
No.
It doesn't mean that. And
No.
I don't think we can say that too many times. It's not what it's about.
No. And I'm very much a home person. I live with 2 introverts, and the 2 extroverts have really fancy their homes as well. We are home people. And although Deani and I have a plan to she's becoming a nurse, and so we're going to do some travel nursing where I can just go wherever she gets called for 12 or whatever number of weeks, and it's going to be great. Like, that's actually on our plan, and when we do that, we will be really living in a transient way. But we live very simply now. We are very much home people. Like, you can see, like, this is my bedroom. Like, this is home. This is intentional. We have altars, and we really live here. We live here, and we love living here, and we want our home to be a place that we live. So this isn't about just freeing yourself up from space. It's not. It's about really being able to be who you are in your home, and like having a home that will support us.
The other thing I want to say that I find is true of really all the topics that Rebecca talks about, and also with this one that I just wanted to tie in and put out there, is that it's really just about being conscious. And because Rebecca's, business,
Consciously parenting, yes.
Exactly. It really does spill. That's really what it means to me when I explain my lifestyle to people, which I often find myself being asked to do. It all comes back to just being conscious, being mindful of what's going on. All of the choices that we've made with our family are about that. And so if folks are following her and because they find, that they're resonating with the idea of the conscious parenting, then this really kind of just matches up with that. It's just being aware and making conscious choices rather than just being on autopilot and having other people make those choices for you or society dictate what you feel like you should be doing. It's really just a piece of that. It's really not separate or different. It's just a conscious lifestyle choice.
Wake up. Don't assume everything you've been told about you is true.
Exactly.
Yes, absolutely. Sorry about that distraction. I forgot I had a client right after you. I didn't forget her. I just didn't. That happens when I'm with Rebecca. So, yeah. My client's calling. I'm like, oh, hi. Let's do the work.
Sorry.
It's okay. They're so used to me. This is not going to shock them.
I'm just finishing a live call. Hang on.
Right. Well, please, I'm the unruly woman, and I'm really busy today. That's so silly. Anyway, this woman that I have a session with her and her husband together, and they've been doing this sick of being stuck thing from the beginning 5 years ago, and the whole house has changed. Everything has changed, and they're still in their same home. They're still now talking about if that's still true for them. But this goes on for years, and it does affect all of the aspects of your life, and it makes the things that you really ache to do possible. So I'm really glad Meredith is here today.
Yes, thank you for being here, Meredith.
Thanks for inviting me / roping me in.
That's how she does things, you know.
Yeah, I know.
Yes, Meredith has been around long enough.
Yep, I've been around for a while.
She's like, hey, will you come to the first episode of my radio show? Hey, you want to stay? Yes, I do. That was super fun.
Yes. All right. Well, I am going to go get ready for my yard sale. That's happening tomorrow. This is my first yard sale. I've never ever done one.
So
exciting. Way to go all in.
Ever. So, and I'm not sure Trey has either, although he is acting like he knows what he's doing. So I'm going with it, you know.
Trey and I have that in common. That's how we like to roll. I meant to do that.
Yeah, I meant to do that. Yeah, so that's tomorrow. And then I think then my ex-husband is coming over to help get the boys' furniture out of their rooms on either Saturday night or Sunday. And so we've got like big shifting happening. And Nate, the 22-year-old, they got a storage unit, so they're ready, and they put an offer in on a house. So there's lots and lots of movement happening here.
Perfect.
So it's good.
Exciting.
That's very good. All right. Well, I will see you early next week, I'm sure. And if you need me through the weekend, just buzz me and we'll do one of our impromptu ridiculous videos, and it'll be great.
Fabulous. Sounds great.
It was nice to meet you, Meredith.
It was nice to meet you too. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye.
Bye.